Did you know that Benjamin Orr played his final concert just 1 week before dying of pancreatic cancer? He wasn't alone. Today, we're diving once again into stories of musicians who kept performing through heartbreaking illness. Their stories are tragic, inspiring, and sometimes almost unbelievable once you understand what they endured to keep going. Let's start with a story that still gets to me every time. Gord Downie. When the Tragically hip announced he had glioblastoma, an aggressive and terminal brain cancer, Canada practically stopped in its tracks.
Which used to be my forte, and now I can't remember hardly anything I have. I have Peter written on my hand. I have a few things written on my hand.
Most musicians would have retired immediately, but Gord wasn't ready to leave the stage. The band planned the Man Machine Poem Tour for 2016. They were fully aware it might be their final run, and watching Gord during those shows was heartbreaking and inspiring at the same time. He sometimes forgot lyrics and needed visual cues. He pushed through memory lapses, seizures, and extreme fatigue, yet somehow delivered performances with more emotion than ever before. Fans knew they were witnessing something historic. That final show in Kingston wasn't just a concert. It felt like a farewell letter, written in real time. Gord knew his illness would take him, but he refused to let it stop him from giving everything he had left. Talk about Benjamin Orr, whose final weeks are almost unreal to revisit. Best known as the bassist and co-lead vocalist of The Cars, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2000. But instead of stepping back, Benjamin joined his new band Big People and kept performing through intense pain and rapid physical decline. His last public performance took place on September 27th in 2000 in Alaska, just 1 week before he died. And when you watch the footage or read accounts from that night, people say he sang with surprising strength, despite being visibly frail. It's emotional because he didn't announce his condition publicly until late in the process. Fans saw a musician giving everything he had without realizing time was almost up. That final show wasn't planned as a farewell, but it became one. Benjamin Orr's story shows how deeply some artists cling to the stage, even at the very end. Next up is Gregg Allman, and his story spans years of illness, treatment, and relentless commitment to performing. Gregg battled hepatitis C for decades, eventually undergoing a liver transplant in 2010. Most musicians would have slowed down permanently, but Gregg went back on the road as soon as doctors let him. Later, when he developed terminal liver cancer, he continued touring with his solo band and recording new music.
I'm getting back on my feet now. It's a long time recovery.
Even as his energy faded and complications kept piling up. What strikes me is how determined he was to keep connecting with fans. He often performed seated toward the end, conserving strength, but his voice still carried that haunting bluesy power. Friends said he refused to be defined by illness and insisting the stage was where he felt most alive. Gregg's final shows weren't perfect, but they were honest. Watching them now feels like witnessing a man trying to hold on to the music as long as he possibly could. Moving on, let's talk about Jimmy Bain. His final days were as unexpected as they were heartbreaking. Known for his work with Rainbow, Dio, and later Last in Line, Jimmy had been struggling with what he thought was pneumonia during the band's rehearsals for the 2016 Def Leppard cruise. Yet he kept practicing, traveling, and preparing to perform despite coughing fits, weakness, and exhaustion. He even played a pre-cruise show while unknowingly dealing with undiagnosed lung cancer. Bandmates later said he pushed himself far harder than anyone realized. The heartbreaking part is that he died on the ship before the scheduled concerts, and only afterward did medical reports confirm he had advanced cancer. Jimmy Bain's story isn't just about performing while ill. It's about a musician so committed that he kept going until his body simply couldn't anymore. It's tragic, but it shows a level of dedication few fans ever see. Next up is Paul Di'Anno, and his journey is one of the rawest and most public battles with illness in metal. After years of infections, MRSA, and severe knee and leg problems, he eventually became wheelchair-bound. Most singers would have disappeared from touring entirely, but Paul did the opposite. Between 2022 and 2024, he played more than 100 shows around the world. He did so seated, battling pain and undergoing treatments between gigs. Watching him sing from a wheelchair, you can tell every note costs something. He's honest about the struggle too, sharing details of surgeries, setbacks, and the mental toll of long-term illness. What strikes me is that Paul didn't return for nostalgia. He returned because performing is part of who he is. Even as his body declined, he refused to let illness silence him. His commitment shows that metal isn't just a genre. For some musicians, it's survival. Now, let's talk about Steve Grimmett from Grim Reaper. His story is one of the most dramatic examples of refusing to quit. In 2017, while touring in Ecuador, a diabetic infection spread so aggressively that doctors had to amputate his right leg below the knee. Most people would have taken years to recover if they returned to performing at all, but Steve was back on stage with a prosthetic leg later that same year, singing with shocking power and determination. Fans couldn't believe how quickly he returned, and he kept touring internationally for several more years, even as additional health issues made travel difficult. Steve's voice carried this raw, emotional edge in his later performances, almost as if the struggle added weight to every line he sang. His story shows what it truly means to push through something life-changing and still find your way back to the stage. Now, the following musician is someone whose pain was almost legendary. Dick Dale, the king of surf guitar. This man performed through illnesses that would stop anyone else: cold, rectal cancer twice, severe diabetes, kidney failure, and constant infections. He once said he had to keep touring to pay for medical bills. But it was more than that. Performing kept him going. He played blisteringly loud shows into his late 70s, sometimes telling fans afterward that he'd been in agony the entire night. Imagine finishing a set while dealing with infections, bleeding, or medication side effects, and still walking back out for autographs. That was Dick Dale. His guitar tone sounded like a man fighting through a storm, and now you know why. He didn't just perform while ill. He performed when most people couldn't even function. His determination shows a level of grit rarely seen in music today. You know, Carl Wilson's story is one of the most emotionally heavy on this list. The Beach Boys guitarist was diagnosed with lung cancer in 1997, but instead of stepping away from touring, he continued playing with the band through chemotherapy and radiation. During those final months, Carl often performed seated. Backstage, he sometimes used oxygen to catch his breath between songs, but once he stepped back into the lights, he pushed through with surprising grace.
Music is an expression of spirit, and it's a living expression, so it has a real, people connect to it, because people are spirit.
Fans have said those late shows felt almost spiritual, knowing he was sick, but still giving everything he had. His last performances came in late 1997, only months before he passed away, in early 1998. What stands out to me is how quietly he fought. Carl wasn't dramatic about his illness. He just kept showing up, doing the job, and supporting his bandmates. His perseverance is one of the most moving stories in classic rock.
It only makes it worse to live without it. But let's talk. Under the moon, the stars have crossed our path.
Next up is someone whose comeback still blows my mind, Bruce Dickinson. When Iron Maiden announced he had a tumor at the base of his tongue in 2014, most fans assumed the next tour would be canceled. Instead, Bruce completed chemo and radiation, took time to rebuild his voice, and then returned to the stage like a man who refused to let cancer write his final chapter. What amazes me is how open he's been about the fear he felt during treatment. He has admitted that singing again wasn't guaranteed. And yet, when Maiden launched the Book of Souls tour in 2016, Bruce hit the stage with the same wild energy, running across risers, hitting those huge notes and commanding the crowd. Watching those shows, you could feel his gratitude. He didn't just return to performing. He returned swinging. It's one of rock's strongest reminders that illness doesn't always get the final say. Finally, we end with Richie Faulkner, whose medical emergency is unlike anything else on this list. During a 2021 Judas Priest concert, he suffered an aortic rupture and dissection. It is a condition that's almost always fatal within minutes. And unbelievably, he finished the guitar solo in Painkiller before collapsing backstage. Surgeons later said he arrived at the hospital with only minutes to spare. After open heart surgery and months of recovery, Richie did something incredible. He came back to the stage. He's been honest about the lingering effects, including anxiety and physical limitations. But his passion for performing hasn't changed. Watching him play after such a catastrophic event feels surreal because you know how close he came to not surviving. Richie's story is about facing death in real time and choosing to continue making music afterward. It's one of the most powerful modern examples of perseverance in metal. These musicians didn't just perform, they pushed through illness, fear, and impossible challenges to keep doing what they loved. Their strength honestly amazes me. Which of these stories hit you the hardest? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into rock history and the legends who shaped it.